So we have Councillors Brogan, Archie Buchanan and Matthew Buchanan. With Councillors Kaliki, we have apologies from Councillor Convery with Councillor Logan Subban. We have Councillors Cowan, Cowie, Devlin, Dewar, apologies from Councillor Fagan. We have Councillor Faulkner, we have Councillor Ferguson, Councillors Fulton, Gowland, Gray, Councillor Lockhart, Councillor Mars. We have an apology from Councillor McCallum with Councillor Ferguson Miller, Subban. We have Councillor McCreary, Councillor McLachlan, Councillor Ray, Rob, Shearer and Councillor Williams, and we have a number of council officers present as well.
Thank you very much. Okay. So any declarations of interest? I don't see any. The next item on the agenda is item 2, housing revenue account, housing revenue and capital account budget for 26-27. And Sharon, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Morning, members. So this morning, the purpose of the report is to outline the revenue estimate proposals for the housing revenue account for 2026-27 and request approval for the 26-27 housing capital programme, which totals just over the £90 million. So at section 3, the proposals for the housing revenue account budget for the following year. This has been prepared in line with the 30-year HRA business plan. So the revenue budget includes a contribution to the capital programme to progress the investment priority to maintain and improve the housing stock to meet national housing quality and energy efficiency standards. The programme also includes projects to increase the supply of council housing as well as environmental works and legislative compliance programmes to ensure that all safety requirement standards are met. So section 3.2, this details the movement from the original 2025-26 revenue budget as outlined in Appendix 1. So the main points to note there is the supervision and management costs, which are to reflect additional costs of the 25-26 pay award and the pay award for the upcoming year 26-27. The planned increase in employers' pension contribution reflecting the end of the short-term benefit over the past 2 financial years, and the increase in the property insurance premiums reflecting the storm damage and offset in part by a reduction in the provision for our bad debt. There's also one of the main expenditure movements is regards housing repairs and maintenance, reflecting a prudent allocation for expected costs and demands on these services, financing costs and loan charges to reflect the costs associated with the planned capital investment requirements, our contribution to capital programme, which reflects the phasing of expenditure across financial years, house rents to reflect the addition of new stock and proposed rent increase, and finally the planned transfer from reserves, which reflects requirement within the 26-27 budget for any long-term investments included within the 30-year plan. So the 26-27 budget proposal also includes the provision of £1.3 million for bad debt. Now, I would note here that that is a decrease from the previous year and is reflecting the expected position for 26-27. And that's following on the good performance within the local teams in terms of rent income collection and arrears recovery. This bad debt also includes contingency for the ongoing uncertainty on rental collections in the coming year due to the cost of living pressures and continued managed migration, which is the final tranche of universal credit. And an allocation of £300,000 has been made for tenancy sustainment. In relation to rent, in previous rounds of budget engagement, tenants have favoured the multi-year arrangements. So on this basis, they provided some clarity regarding rent levels over the medium term. This is the final year, year 3 of a 3-year multi-deal, which had been agreed through our Tenant Participation Coordination Group, which results in a rent increase of 6.5% being proposed for 26-27. As detailed at paragraph 2.1, in addition to council houses, the increase also applies to gypsy traveller sites, lock-ups, garage sites, as well for close cleaning within flatted properties where this service is in place. In February 16, South Lanarkshire Council approved the application for an application of an additional £10 weekly rental charge to all new build properties that were let from the 1st of April 2016 onwards. Since that point, the increase has been applied to all council new build houses, regardless of the property type or size. In preparing for the budget and rent proposals for the coming year, further consideration has been given to this additional weekly charge, and it's felt appropriate that a revised approach was required and a new build premium should be progressed, where the increase applied to new build properties should be varied to reflect their property type and size. Therefore, at 3.6, it is recommended that for new properties let to tenants either on or after the 1st of April 2026, the weekly additional rent charge for new build properties moves to a base rent level plus the 15% premium, rather than that standard £10 weekly additional charge. Applying a set percentage premium onto the base rent means that the property size and type has been taken into account. The base rent reflects the size and type of the property, while the premium reflects the new build properties being energy efficient, with tenants benefiting from lower fuel bills. The 15% premium on energy efficient new build properties will support the continuing new build programme. In essence, the council will now have 3 different rent levels. So there's the base rent level, which is the standard council rent based on size and type. Base rent level plus £10 per week for new builds that were let on or after the 1st of April 2016 up until the 31st of March this year. And then the new level, which will be the base rent level plus 15% premium for new builds on or after the 1st of April 26. So there's some detail there at 3.8 for your information on how this reflects. And I just would like to caveat that by noting that the latest Scottish Social Housing Charter returns the average rent charges for South Lanarkshire Council tenants are currently the 8th lowest of local authority landlords across the country. So section 4, the proposal for the Housing Revenue Account Capital Programme. The 26-27 capital programme is compiled in line with, as I said, with the business plan, as well as continuing to plan and undertake the works needed to maintain our stock and meet national housing quality standards and energy efficiency standards. A significant work stream in this year's housing investment programme will be the continuation of our investment to increase the overall supply of council housing across South Lanarkshire. And for everybody's information, the full HRA capital programme is detailed in Appendix 2. So within Appendix 2, you will note that key investment activities relate to the new kitchen programme, heating replacements, our fabric first approach in terms of insulation, external fabric upgrading, roofs and windows, doors and other external environmental improvements. At this point in time, we do not have the funding allocation for 26-27 in regard to the Affordable Housing Supply Programme. We have been entering into discussions with the Scottish Government around this. It's anticipated that we'll receive this later in the year. In the interim, a programme has been developed based on the grant allocation for 25-26. This estimate can be increased or decreased as necessary when the grant funding for 26-27 is confirmed. And further information will be provided at Executive Committee once the grant has been received. Table 2 at 4.4, that details the funding programme. The grant borrowing assumptions are based on anticipated completion of 151 new homes and 60 acquisitions of the existing homes during 26-27. They will also contribute to the commencement of a further 327 new council homes that will be completed in later years. Once grant levels for 26-27 have been confirmed, any impact on that capital programme will be reported to the Executive Committee. Section 4.6 notes the borrowing, which is also detailed in Table 2, and the forecast to be carried forward from 25-26. The additional 25 million of new borrowing for additional housing supply will result in an increase to the annual loan charges of around 1.2 million per annum, starting in 26-27. Again, these costs have been included within our HRA business plan. Section 5 are consultation arrangements, so very similar to as we do every year, the Budget Scrutiny Group provides the main vehicle for discussion between the Council and our tenant representatives on our budgetary process and the financial challenges and the operational opportunities facing housing services. Each year, the Council and the Budget Scrutiny Group work together to coordinate this and coordinate the consultation programme. This year's consultation programme, as we do every year, has been very similar. We've had our online survey, which has been open to all council tenants and widely promoted across the South Lanarkshire View, our Housing News digital newsletter, and through the council's social media channels. In addition, we've had other focus events where we've met with tenants in sheltered housing, at our Gypsy Traveller sites, and within some of our high-rise blocks. A conversation cafe event facilitated by our South Lanarkshire Tenant and Development Support Project was also held in the Townhouse in Hamilton on the 9th of December, which provided an opportunity for tenants to discuss the rent proposal, the investment priorities in more detail. So during this consultation, the Budget Scrutiny Group and the Tenant Participation Coordination Group participated in open discussions with senior council officers on key issues and challenges which are facing housing services, including the ongoing economic uncertainty and impact of the cost of living crisis, the increased costs associated with delivering these frontline services, and the Council's commitment to ensure that rents remain affordable. So a summary of the feedback is provided there at 5.4. Feedback has been received and the engagement that took place with tenants on the outline. So it's noted there at 5.5, there was 1,801 surveys completed during the consultation, which was an increase in the previous year. There was strong agreement from respondents that the proposed investment priorities were the right ones. The Budget Scrutiny Group and those who took part in all the focus groups and other engagement opportunities were broadly supportive of a 6.5% rent increase for the third year. 55% of respondents to the online survey supported the rent level to be increased by 6.5% in line with the 3-year commitment. 57% of respondents were supportive of the proposal to add a 15% premium to new build rent levels, again effective from the 1st of April 26. So there's no employee implications or financial implications as noted there, and I'll take you back into the recommendations, which are the first one, that the proposed rent increase of 6.5% be applied in 26-27 to all council houses, gypsy traveller sites, lock-ups, garage site rents, and the revenue estimate proposals for the HRA as detailed at Appendix 1 is endorsed. That the proposed increase in charges applied to the provision of close cleaning and laundry services of 6.5% also be endorsed, and that a 15% premium to be added to all new build rent charges that are let either on or after the 1st of April 26 to reflect the increased energy efficiency measures within these properties and support the continuation of the new build programme, again be endorsed. That based on the rent increase of 6.5%, the 26-27 Housing Capital Programme of £90.4 million as detailed in Appendix 2 is endorsed, and that the recommendations be referred to Executive Committee for endorsement, then on to the full Council for approval. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sharon. I'm going to move the recommendations.
I'll second them.
And before I open up for questions, I'd like to thank everybody that took part in the surveys. It's really valued information. In particular, I'd like to thank the Tenant Participation Coordination Group, who do a tremendous amount of work, and they work very closely with officials. Really good relationship, and they're very constructive towards any decisions that we've come to today. So again, just thank you to those. So I'm going to open it up now for questions. First question I've got is Kirsten Robb. Kirsten?
Thanks everyone, and morning. This is still my first year of Housing Committee, so I've got 3 questions. So do you want them all at once?
Yeah,
okay. Just looking at Appendix 2, is it possible for councillors to come along and observe and listen to tenants in the December cafes each year, just to see how the process works?
Sorry, could you? Is it possible for who? For members?
Yeah, just to observe. Obviously, it's the tenants' opinions, but just to sit and listen and observe.
All members or committee members?
I suppose committee members to start off with, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sharon, I'm not sure about the logistics of that, but you know, Sharon can.
We can. That's absolutely fine. I can speak to the Tenant Participation Coordination Group. I'm sure they'd be absolutely open to members coming along. And there's also the local events that you would also be able to attend, Councillor Robb, if there's any in your ward. In terms of the multi-stories, sometimes we have events there where we'll go and try and engage with tenants in the blocks, because you get a high number of people and you get their views. So absolutely, and we can keep you informed of when those consultation events are. That's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just to understand a bit more how the decisions are made about allocation. Yeah. The other question is, where does the scheme of assistance fit in the budget? Just to understand that, where it is, which line in these papers is covered by that?
Sharon?
The scheme of assistance isn't included within this because this is a housing revenue account, so this is solely focused on tenants, whereas the scheme of assistance is for owners. Okay. That sits within general services.
Okay, thank you. And the last question is, in terms of adaptations, I noticed the figure allocated for this year is the same as last year. I just wondered, is last year's all used up? What's the demand? Is there any information available, sort of demand versus amount available? Thanks.
Sharon?
We've been monitoring the spend to date, so there is still a slight value remaining within the aids and adaptation budget for the current year. So we've been monitoring that with our colleagues in finance, and we'll ensure that gets spent for this financial year, and we've just maintained the same levels for next year. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kirsten. Andrea Cowan.
Hi, morning everybody. So just a couple of quick questions. Good to see that the budget has gone up again this year, so that's always good news, and nice to see that there's a large proportion allocated to the maintenance of our existing stock and improvements of the existing stock. It's all very well, building new houses, but obviously we don't want our existing stock to get left behind, so that's all good. I just wanted to touch on the 15%, the additional, sorry, I'm just looking for my note, just in the 15% for the new build properties. Really, I agree that there should be a new build premium, and I'm just wondering about the logistics of that. How long would a property be termed as new build? So, if somebody moves into a new build and they move in 2 years, does the next tenant pay that same level of rent, or does the 15% drop off at any time? And also, just a wee bit concerned that perhaps it'll mean that certain residents wouldn't be able to afford to live in a new build, and I'm concerned that perhaps that would set up 2 separate lists, those who can afford new builds and those who can't. So just wondering if, I'm sure you've thought about these things, but just a wee bit of clarity around that, please. Thanks.
We're going to touch on the additional 15% on top of the 10, which has always been in place. It said in the report, it reflects the insulation and the heating systems that's in those houses, so they'll have much reduced energy bills as a result. So it just seems sort of fair. But at the end of the day, these additional costs really do help. Sharon will deal with this, but these really do help towards continuing with our new build programme, and as you know, we're desperately short and we're doing everything we can to increase our stock. So this is seen as a fair way to address that. Sharon?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Cowan.
Thanks.
So, in terms of the new build, we haven't defined the term of what is classified a new build. So that example there, in terms of someone being allocated a brand new build, and in 2 years' time they move on, the next tenant again, yes, they would come in and pay that 15% premium. However, we do recognise that after years down the line, we can't continue to probably call a property a new build when it's 15 to 20 years of age. So due to this, we have recognised that moving forward, we will need to consider a different approach and potentially a new rent structure, which will focus on the energy efficiency standards. And as Councillor McLachlan mentioned there, our new build properties are fully insulated. They meet the highest level of energy performance, and that's the reason why we're putting that additional premium on. So that would be the baseline in how we would do a full rent restructure in future, because we recognise that, and also it's noted in the paper, we're currently working to 3 different levels of rent. So that would streamline that, and that's something that we need to take forward and consider. And in terms of the additional cost and whether that would be a barrier to some of our applicants, to date that hasn't posed any issues. Those who are in receipt of housing benefit or universal credit and will receive housing costs, that additional premium would be covered within their housing cost element of their benefit anyway. However, it would be more probably prudent for those who are maybe in employment but on a low level of income. But so far it hasn't been any impact, because as Councillor McLachlan has mentioned there, the energy efficiency of these properties means a reduction in their utility bills, and sometimes these properties are it's meeting their family need or household need or medical need much better, and that's offset some of those challenges.
Another point to consider is that we've got a programme of upgrading insulation in current properties, and with a bit of luck and in time, then we're going to have our full stock, or most of the stock, fully insulated. And Sharon, it's something I suppose we can discuss, but it'll be a long way down the road. I don't imagine I'll still be sitting here when we get to talk about that. But when that comes, rather than reducing the amount, is the premium, I suppose it could sort of remain the same until others catch up. But that's something for quite a time away yet, Andrea, I think. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And I'm fully supportive of the additional cost, and I understand the, you know, the reduced energy costs, etc. should hopefully balance that out. And the other thing, just to ask again, is if we're improving our existing stock and they become more energy efficient, would an increase in rent be considered there as well? You know, to take account of the improved property.
Sharon?
We haven't done that so far for those properties that have had fabric upgrades or new roofs and doors and windows, but that is something that we would need to take account of as we go forward and do any sort of restructure or rent review, because we would then be basing rent levels on energy performance outcomes and how they were rated.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
As I was touching earlier, I think it would seem like a sensible approach that in time, gradually, as the rents increase, that we would rationalise them at some point. But when the older properties are fully insulated, rather than making a reduction in the new builds, let them remain stagnant until everyone else catches up. But that, like I said, I'm pretty sure that's going to be quite a long time away yet, given the size of our stock. Norman Ray.
Thank you, Chair. I also have a couple of questions around that 15% premium. I was wondering if that 15% represents the total figure expected to be gained from the efficiency savings, the energy efficiency savings, or will the tenant still benefit from some reduction in the energy costs that isn't then taken up by that 15%, if you follow me? And also, is the energy efficiency saving the same in every new build house with different designs and so on? And so how does that sort of compare as 15% based on a sort of average, or is there a variation, I suppose?
So every new build property will... Every new build property will have absolutely different energy efficiency outcomes, and that will be dependent on the property type, its location, how it faces in terms of wind, water, the weather. So there's a whole host of factors that are determined when we're doing our energy performance assessments. So every property is slightly different. As I say, a house will vary to our flats. In terms of the rent levels, though, by increasing that 15%, you'll see that at the table at 3.8. So a one-bed masonette on a base rent level for old council stock would have been £81.77. If we had based it just with the £10 premium that we applied, it would have been £91.77. But based on the 15%, it takes it to the 94. So that won't offset all of their energy efficiency savings that they would achieve just with that additional couple of pounds there. But it just helps to bring some money back into our capital programme. Sure. Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks very much.
Eileen Logan. Eileen.
Oops, Daisy. Thanks very much, Chair. I have for many a long year sat in the Housing Committees. This was my first term that I didn't get put in the Housing Committee since 1980. So a long time, and I miss it, and I like coming in as a substitute. But I think I personally would like to thank yourself, Margaret, everybody who has worked through this process to get us to here. It's not that we've not looked after our stock. When we came here in 1995, we had 4 different areas with 4 different standards, 4 different rents, for this, for that, for the other. We had areas who were sitting, and I'll not name them because it wouldn't be fair, with a coal fire and nothing else, while other areas had they had already heating in. The other 3 areas stood back because we knew we had to put money into an area that really, really did need it, so we did that. And to try and get people, you know, in a sort of level playing field. So we have, over the years, been playing catch-up. We've also had the Home Happening, which was a great thing. And this is like Home Happening 2, you know, You're going back now to look at what was already there. So as a council, and I go to different places and hear different stories, I think we should be very, very proud over the years of what we've done. We've always had good chairs, yourself included, and good vice chairs, and Margaret and everybody, good directors who have pushed forward. We've never just stood back and thought, oh, we'll do nothing. We've always pushed forward. For years and years, we had our hands tied behind our backs, not just one hand, two hands. We were not allowed to build, or it was uneconomical to build. If you built, somebody could buy your house for 70% discount, so there was no incentive. We are now looking to build houses. And with the 15% premium, when you look at some of the new houses, and I was very lucky in the past time to get new houses, but they're superb. I mean, people are getting sometimes an ensuite, 2 toilets, a beautiful kitchen, the best of heating, the best of energy, as you said. So it's worth, what they're paying is well worth it. It's given them a great life and a good way forward for themselves and their children. So as a council, I think that South Lanarkshire is the best. I think our staff are the best. If you open me up, it's always South Lanarkshire Council. But we have, over the years, did exactly what we're saying. We're not leaving anybody behind, because we never left anybody behind. We've always just moved on. And as I say, now we're on to Home Happening 2. So you cannot make an egg if you don't have the ingredients, not an egg, a cake, without the ingredients to put in it, including breaking the eggs. So I think the rent increases and whatever, and we're showing what we're going to do with our money. The people appreciate that. And thank you again, and please extend my thanks to all the staff who have worked on this year, but on the previous times as well. Thank you.
Eileen, that's a fantastic trip down memory lane. I must thank you very much for that. And it's a reminder of just how well we do perform. And just going back to what Sharon mentioned at the start of the report, we're the 8th lowest, which means there's 24 other local authorities that charge higher rent than we do, at the same time as we're providing what... Sorry? Yeah. And you said you wouldn't mention the areas, but I won't mention the areas, but I can say that it's areas that were inherited from Glasgow, who still had steel-framed windows. One coal-fire. So a lot of money, a lot of work had to be done to bring those up to a standard, and we'll still continue to improve those standards. And it's just reminded me, Eileen, thank you very much, everybody within the Housing and Technical Resources team, for doing a sterling job. I don't take credit for that. The officials do the hard work behind the scenes. So thank you very much, Eileen. Richard Lockhart.
Chair, this is really a bit more for my education. This is point 38, if you like, on page, whatever it is, page 5. Yeah, it's the table 1. I just want to learn a bit more about those numbers. I mean, what you've got in front of you there is proposed rent levels for new builds, and it jumps straight from 1-bed maisonette to 4-bed detached. Well, that would indicate that nothing else is being built. That's one question, is to look at how it, if you like, rises up to the 4-bed detached. And the second question is, it sort of doesn't seem particularly big for the 4-bed when a maisonette is already up at £81. It's really a question of education for me, perhaps, if you could answer those two questions. Thank you.
I'll leave that to Sharon to answer.
Thanks, Councillor Lockhart. So the table there at 3.8 was just to give you a bit of an idea. It was just to set the range. So going from like one of our lowest rents, a 1-bedroom flat, so our masonette flats, which aren't the obviously a small footprint in terms of our house and stock. So to show that base rent there is £81, and then show you the range and the difference, and that a 4-bed detached is 133. So it's just to show the difference in the range there, but there absolutely is. There's a whole host of 1-bedroom flats, 2-bedroom flats, tenement flats, cottage flats, and 2-bed, terraced, semi-detached, detached houses, 3-bed, terraced, semi-detached, detached houses. So there is a whole host of properties being built. It was just to really show from the lowest rent charge up to the very highest rent charge.
Thank you. So it's, sorry, Chair, can I just say it's based on the footprint? It's based on footprint, really, then, isn't it?
Well, I don't know, Sharon.
It's based on the size and type of the property. So obviously that does take account of the footprint, but it's based on the size and type. So a one-bedroom flat would be one of our lowest rents in comparison to what our self-contained houses are. And that example there at 3.8, which is the 4-bed detached house, is one of our largest properties that we would have. And in our new build programme, you're seeing 4-bed detached houses where people have that, their own driveway and garden space, and that's why that's at the highest rent charge.
That okay for you?
Can I continue, Chair?
Yeah, of course.
Right. I mean, the trend, I mean, you see in housing developments and things, quite a lot of 4 and 5 bedroom houses. But it amazes me in a way that the average family now is producing 1.3 children or something, and the trend is to smaller houses. And I'm wondering, it's a sort of two-part question, really. If the majority of our new builds are 4-bedroom houses, why we're going for 4? I mean, I'm just interested to understand a little bit more of the logic behind all this. That's all. I'm sorry if I'm taking up time.
That's okay. I would suggest to you that the majority aren't 4-bedroom houses. I don't know about in your area, but certainly I get people coming to me and I get approached by other members about people looking for larger properties, and I've got, without getting into detail, I've got one family in particular who's looking for a bigger property, and it's quite a long wait because of the limited amount of 4-bed properties that are available within each of the new build sites. There's a range. There's obviously a range of needs out there, and when we are going ahead with our plans to build new properties or buy properties on the turnkey option, is based roughly on what the local demand and needs are for that particular area, and it's not always 4 bedrooms. A lot of the times it's 1 and 2 bedrooms. Sharon, I'll ask you to add anything to that, or Stephen, if you like.
So when we look at our capital programme for the year ahead, and we start to consider what types of new builds we want, it's all based on our housing need and demand assessment. So that's done to understand what our local what the need is across South Lanarkshire and what the local need is. So predominantly what we do have in our new build programmes is 2 and 3 bedrooms. And apologies if that's caused any confusion at 3.8 with the 4-bed detached. Whilst we do build some 4-bed detached, it's only a small proportion and within some sites. And that will be in specific areas where we've got significant issues of overcrowding, where we need to rehouse larger families into larger homes. So it was merely there in terms of the 4-bed detached to show the range and our rent levels, but predominantly it's 2 and 3 bedrooms, and depending on which site, it depends whether it's flats or houses. Again, we need to make each site financially stack up. We work alongside our colleagues in finance and our colleagues in the Scottish Government when we're looking at our grant funding that's available. So sometimes in sites we will put a number of houses as well as some flats, because it just financially stacks up and makes the site more affordable for us. But just to clarify that, Councillor Lockhart, the 4-bed detached is small numbers across the new build programme.
Okay, Richard?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. That's great.
Okay.
Thanks for that.
So I have no other questions or comments, so we'll move on to the next. Have we agreed, and we can move on to the next report? All agreed? Yeah, okay. Item 3 on the agenda is acquisition of affordable homes at Almada Street in Hamilton. Craig Jardine, please.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. The purpose of this report on pages 11 to 14 is to seek approval from committee to acquire 36 affordable housing properties that will be constructed by Keep Moat Homes at Almada Street, Hamilton, for inclusion in the Council's housing stock. In terms of background, the kind of update on this part is just in relation to the new Strategic Housing Investment Plan that went through committee on the 17th of December 25. This was approved by Housing and Tech Committee, and this proposal is part of that overall report. In terms of the proposal, in April 25, the Council commenced discussions with Keep Moat Homes to fulfil their planning obligation for new affordable homes through a turnkey arrangement, with the Council paying stage payments for each key stage completed for each house. The mix of houses across the sites consists of 2 to 3 bedroom terraced houses, 4 bed semi-detached and 1 and 2 bedroom flats. And it's anticipated these houses will be complete in financial year 27-28. As part of those discussions, the costing and financial proposals provided by Keep Motorhomes have been assessed by the Council, and the funding package represents value for money. And just for illustration, the mix of housing equates to an average per unit of 245,000. So it's therefore proposed to acquire the 36 completed houses from Keep Motorhomes, subject to the following principal conditions: that the Council will pay a land payment prior to works commencing and take ownership of the site. Balance for each unit will then be paid in the following stages: floor slab, wind and watertight, and completion. And that's the standard that we generally use with a scheme of this type. And the Council will receive a third-party warranty covering defects and structure for a period of no less than 10 years, and each party will be responsible for their own legal fees. In terms of financial implications in Section 6, acquisition of the properties will be funded from Housing Revenue Account, Capital Programme, and will be eligible for Scottish Government Affordable Housing Supply Grant funding. The funding for this development is included in the Capital Programme for 26-27, which is subject to a separate approval in the Housing Revenue and Capital Account budget in 26-27, being reported to this committee. The proposed purchase price for each unit compares favourably with the asking prices of the same house types within the development and prices of similar new properties on the open market. In terms of Section 8, other implications: should the acquisition of the right of access and construction of the 36 homes from Keep Motorhomes not progress, there may be implication to the Council's ability to meet increasing housing need in the Hamilton area. So if I can just divert you back to Section 2, the recommendations. So committee is asked to approve that the acquisition of 36 completed affordable homes from Keep Motorhomes for a total price of £8,836,800 to fulfil the planning obligations associated with the residential development of the site be approved, and 2, that the Executive Director of Housing and Technical Resources, in conjunction with the Head of Administration and Legal Services, be authorised to conclude all matters pertaining to these transactions and enter into all necessary legal agreements on terms which are in the best interests of the Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Craig. I'll move the recommendations.
And I'll second it.
I really welcome this, that this site has been sitting for a while. There was proposals in place, and some people will know that for various reasons it's stalled for quite a bit, so it's really nice to see that moving forward, and as pointed out in the recommendations, it's going to help in the Hamilton area in particular. So I've got Andrea Cowan.
Thank you, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Craig. This is great news. Obviously, all additional council housing is always good news. And I had asked before today's meeting for a breakdown of the size and style of properties, and it's great to see such a varied style. That we're going from 1-bedroom flats, up to 4-bedroom semi-detached houses. So hopefully it will make a nice community with a nice mix of residents. And also pleased to see that some of the flats will have lift access, and so they're all accessible and everything. I just wanted to ask, that's 36 units. Can you tell me what size the actual development will be? How many houses are proposed?
I can't recall off the top of my head the private element of the full development, but we can certainly get that number.
Yeah, I was
now it's
just
in
wondering
for planning. Yeah,
how big it would be. I could maybe look at planning, of course.
Oh. So we're taking 25%. So
right. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Right. Okay. I'm working out in my head, but that's great. Okay. No. So yeah, just to say, yeah, absolutely welcome this, and nice to see a mixture. That we're taking a mixture of properties, because as I say, I think that's important for communities going forward, that there's a good mix of different types of people. So thanks for that.
Okay.
Andrea, there's an additional paper there that's been circulated that shows you a kind of an outline of where our development is in that area. That maybe give you a kind of an idea of the scale of what's involved there. The attachment doesn't show the whole area of where the former UWS was, but aye, 25% looks a bit right there, Craig. And just on referring back to Richard's questions the last time, Richard, you'll see here that there's a mix and it's not predominantly 4-bedroom. Next question I've got is Alan Faulkner, sorry. Oh, Craig, did you want to come back?
Sorry, it was just to add that the full development plans are on the planning portal, and that details the mix and type, but we'll get that number to you.
Thanks very much. Alan Faulkner.
Thanks, Chair. I think you answered my question. I was going to ask whereabouts the site is Nomada Street.
Well, it's on the former
That's the old
UWS, Alan.
Yeah.
There's a paper, and there's an additional paper that shows you a drawing of that. So if you take the bus stop across the road for the Water Palace and you walk in where the access to the UWS used to be, you haven't got that? No?
No,
Okay. So I'll do my best to describe it. Is it okay?
that's fine. That's just I wanted to know the site. Thanks, Chair. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
To the rescue. You see it there, Alan? Yep. Okay, thanks very much. Eileen Logan.
Thanks, Chair. I sincerely hope, and I'm glad that we're getting a site, and I'm glad we're getting a mixed tenure or size of houses. And it's quite nice that we don't have people actually having placards and walking about and saying we shouldn't have that anymore, because that's becoming quite prevalent. People will tell you, I want people to get houses, but I don't want them here, there, or wherever.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Eileen. Colin Dewar. Colin?
Thanks, Chair. I'm just looking for a bit of clarification on one thing. A site plan that was provided by Sharon for these affordable homes doesn't actually match the site plan that's on the planning portal that was published on the 20th of January. There's not any discrepancy over the number of properties that are included, but can we just be advised which site plan is actually the correct one, please?
So, I'm not sure if I understood you there, Colin. Is this site plan that we're looking at just now, that doesn't reflect what you're seeing on the planning portal? Is that what you're saying?
No, there's a site plan that that was provided by Sharon that doesn't, the actual layout of the affordable homes that Sharon has provided to us doesn't actually match what's on the planning portal.
So you're talking about the layout of the design?
The actual layout of where the houses are going to be, yeah.
So, just for my own, because I'm obviously interested, it's in both you and I, our ward. So you reckon that plan, that drawing, that outline there is different from what's on the planning portal?
Not the drawing, the actual layout of where the houses are proposed to be is different on the planning portal from what Sharon has.
I'm not sure what you mean. Sharon?
Sorry if I can just come in there, so thank you. The details on the planning portal will include all the private development as well as the social rented. So and as I say, this is still going through the planning process. So there'll be some movement in terms of where exactly everything is. But the additional drawing that has been released with the committee paper shows roughly what our site will look like in the units. And as what the paper is what we've agreed with Keep Moat, is what we would receive. So there might be just slight variances in terms of what's been circulated already, because that'll focus on the social housing element, whereas on planning it'll include their private development for the developer.
So for clarity, the private development will take place around about, which is highlighted on this drawing. Does that answer your question, Colin?
Yeah, so basically what we're anticipating is that what's on the planning portal would be what's built. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So I have no other questions or comments, so it's left for me just to thank you all very much for your attendance.